Hey everyone, Maz from Metabase here. I head up product design here at Metabase, and today I'm going to show you how you can use the many cool features that we have to create beautiful, interactive, self-service dashboards. Let's just dive right in. So let's pretend that we're a small business that sells different products, and we want to create a nice dashboard for our employees that gives it, everybody like an overview of the business, and then lets them dive into specific topics in more detail, like revenue, information about specific orders, and our customers. So just to give you a picture of what we're going to be doing, let me show you some examples that I've already built, and then I'll kind of take you step by step through how I got there. So first off, we are going to, like I said, be creating this company overview kind of dashboard. It's going to have different KPIs, trend kind of information, and then maybe some data, like little breadcrumbs for people that want to go and do their own self-service explorations. So these are, of course, called models in Metabase that we're linking to here. We can have some text cards that will give people some context and information, maybe link them off to other docs that we've got internally. And then we're going to be building tabs that will have detailed information or metrics about these specific topics. So revenue, orders, customers. And then what we're also going to be doing is from this customers tab here, where we have a list of a number of our customers, we're going to make that interactive and have it do something beyond the default click behavior, which is that we're going to have it go to another dashboard, which will be a detailed dashboard about, it'll be intended to be about a specific customer, and that'll be whatever customer the viewer of the dashboard clicks on. So we're going to actually pass some parameters from the first dashboard to this second one in order to fill in some of the things that you see here. Cool, so that's what we're going to be doing. To get started, of course, though, we're going to need a dashboard. So let's go ahead and create our first one. And we'll call this one the company overview. And we'll put it in that same collection and create it. And then we're going to add some questions. I've gone ahead and just created a bunch of saved questions ahead of time, so that it'll speed things up a bit. So here on this overview tab, I'm just going to add all these in, and we'll kind of rearrange things the way that we want them. And then I'll add this one here that's called Big Order Alert, and I'll explain what this one is about too. This is a neat feature in Metabase. So first, let's just go ahead and kind of rearrange the questions the way that we want them. We want to maybe logically group these metrics with each other. So, here's the trend information, here's the all-time value for things like revenue, and then we'll just follow that same pattern across each of these. And then we'll just kind of resize things a bit. But maybe before we do that, we can actually add in a little Markdown card here. So up here, we have the ability to add in either headings or text cards. And like I just kind of mentioned, our text cards support Markdown. So I've already written some information that I want to kind of copy and paste into this text card so that you don't have to be bored watching me type here. And then of course, this, like I said, supports Markdown. So, if we have like a Notion doc or some kind of Google doc or something that has like, a link to our business strategy or like an internal wiki or something, we can of course, just use normal Markdown syntax to make this be a link. So I'll just use like a fake URL like that. And then when we click out of it, we see a preview of how that looks. And so, you can use this in innumerable ways to guide people through your information. You can use it as, again, general guideposts to, welcome to our Metabase. This could be information about the specific numbers that you're seeing. Of course, a very basic and at the same time flexible tool here. So let's go ahead now and resize our numbers a little bit, make them a bit larger. You may or may not have noticed, especially if you have been a long-time user of Metabase, that recently, depending on when you're watching this, we've made our grid a little bit finer. So now it's a bit easier to get precise about the sizing of your charts. Then what we can also do is maybe add in some headings to this dashboard just to help guide people through it a bit. So let me do that here. And let's see, we'll call this one Key Trends. And then we're going to go ahead and put that above all these numbers there. And then maybe what we can do is have another heading that will say, remember, we're going to have links to the models that these numbers are based off of, so that people, if they want to, can just look at the actual unaggregated data and explore from there on their own. So we'll write models for exploration. And then what we can do is use our link cards here and go ahead and have them go to the models that we want to have here. So let's do people. And we want the people model. And then we'll do another link card. And then this one will go to the orders one, I think. I called it enriched orders. Yep. Great. And so, of course, we could provide more context here, explain what these models are, etc. If they have a description, that'll also be available on Hover. But that's pretty good for now. And we'll just go ahead and save this because I'm always worried about losing work along the way. Let me then go over to this question. So I wanted to explain what this does. So right now, this is a question that doesn't return any results, and kind of on purpose. And the thinking behind this is that, I want to know immediately if we get an order, my small little business gets an order that's greater than like $1,000 or something like that. Maybe most of our orders are much smaller than that. And so if we suddenly get somebody who puts in a really big order, we want to make sure that we're paying attention to that and fulfilling that order as soon as possible, because it might be tricky for us. So, like if I got rid of this filter, it's just going to return like a list of orders. But probably what will happen is that there's only going to be like one of these at a time. So while this is like super important to see these orders when they exist, they're not going to be frequent. And it's kind of annoying to have this, chart, this table appear at the top of my dashboard all the time. So what we can do, and as a side note, we've added in this ability to now just jump back easily to your dashboard like so, which makes it really handy to kind of jump back between questions and the dashboard that you came from. What you can do, though, on this kind of question that doesn't return any results most of the time, is you can go in here in edit mode and change the visualization options and tell it to hide itself if there aren't any results, like this. And then if I save this, it's just going to auto hide unless or until there's any results. Kind of handy, makes your dashboard feel just that much more, interactive and dynamic. All right, so we've added headings, we've added link cards, we've got our little guidance here. Why don't we go ahead now and create the tabs for the rest of our dashboard? So this, of course, is a great way to bring some organization to your dashboards, prevent them from being one huge long scroll, and help people kind of go to the specific information that interests them. So to add tabs, it's pretty self-explanatory. You start out with one kind of default implicit tab, and then as you add more, then the first one will actually now show up for users, so they can, of course, toggle back and forth between the tabs. So we'll call this one overview, and then we'll call this second one revenue, and then we'll have one for orders and customers. And just click on these or double click on them to rename them. You can also rename them from this menu and get rid of them. To reorder them, you just click and drag. So that will be our tabs. And let's go ahead and create all the, add all the content that we want to for our different tabs. We'll just go from left to right. So over here, I've organized things into different collections, so it's easy for me to remember which things I want to put on which tabs. So in this one, I'm going to have some trend information. I've got a goal here, and I might even also want to put some stuff from the overview onto this, like month-over-month revenue, total revenue, like that. So great, now I can do something like this. What I often like to do is if I've got a line chart here showing me, the trend of a metric over time, and I also have some of these large numbers that tell me that same metric, like in this case, month over month revenue or total revenue, I kind of like, maybe this is just a funny thing about me, but I like to have, the actual value that would be the most recent one kind of next to it, like the proximity of that feels nice to me. So in this case, we're showing that 14.9K is this most recent data point. They should be the same value if I've done my filtering right. And then this just gives more broad context to our total revenue. And then supporting metric over here and our overall revenue goal. We can arrange this in all sorts of different ways. Maybe another sort of funny thing is I like to have the widths of my charts kind of match like this, just so we have a nice organized little layout there. Go ahead and save that. That's looking pretty good. Let's just make sure that we've got our filters right. I've probably done something wrong here where I am somehow filtering these. Let's look into this. So revenue over time. And I've got this. What I actually want is just the, let's say, previous 30 months or something. 36 to make it a multiple of 12. There we go. Some of this could be because our sample data has information about orders that are like in the future, since it's all just pretend data anyway. Ran into a little bug there. And I think that this should still work though. There we go. And now our numbers match, as you can see, 14,877. Great. You also saw just in action how that little back button works. Even though I was altering the query, saving it, it'll help me just jump quickly back to the dashboard, having to click back on my browser over and over. Okay, revenue tab is done. Let's move over to our orders tab. Alrighty, and we're going to edit, add, orders, doot. Let's also grab this orders information, month-over-month orders. And of course, you don't have to necessarily repeat those same cards that were on the overview tab here also. I just kind of like the ability to not lose that context just because I'm drilling into it. You know, it's silly to have to go back and forth between the overview and then the actual subject itself. So down here, I've got the products model itself just to like list our actual products. I've got our average product rating displayed as a gauge here. Gauges are really flexible. You can add your own ranges for your gauges, assign them different colors, you know, provide different sort of semantic labels for them, and even have more than just, of course, the 3 segments that I've got. Of course, the whole traffic light, red, yellow, green pattern is tremendously common. You don't need me to tell you that. And then over here, we've got our most popular products in terms of how many orders have been placed for each of them. Month-over-month orders, total number of orders. That's looking pretty great. And then we'll go over to our customers, and we are going to add in our content here. Customers, boop. And then we'll go over to our overview, grab some more customers, metrics, total customers, and month-over-month customers. And then actually, we don't want this detail here. I just did that sort of haphazardly. This is going to be for our customer detail dashboard, aptly named. So we'll remove that right here. And then we'll just kind of organize this a little bit. Total customers. I think the pattern I've been using is having the trend on top, so we'll follow that. Customer acquisition. We're going to do something neat with this chart in a minute where we're going to have this be a cross filter. And then let's see, we've got some geo information here. And again, we might want to just use headings to help us break some of this stuff up. So we can kind of plop in a heading and say like customers by geo. And then we'll put that, of course, above our maps. And we've got 2 different kinds of maps here. One of them is what I call a grid heat map. This needs latitude and longitude information in the table or model that you're visualizing. And it's grouping or binning together records by the lat-long bins, sort of. And so then, of course, it's showing red for there's more of them there, and so on. That's what that does. And then down here, of course, we've got a region or choropleth map that is just breaking out the users by where they are. And you can actually upload your own custom GeoJSON files or link to them, and then basically tell Metabase what column represents the region field for the given regions. So while we come prepackaged with a United States and world map, you can actually use a GeoJSON map for whatever kind of region you want to display. Maybe it's parts of Mars or something. I don't know. That'd be cool. Let's go ahead and save this now again, just to save our progress. And cool, we've got an overview, revenue, orders, customers. That's great. And now just looking at my notes over here real quick, we now want to go ahead and add some filters. Let's do that. So filters are global across your tabs. At some point in the future, we may add tabs that are more specific to a particular tab or a particular area. But for right now, they're global across all the tabs of your dashboard, which can often come in handy, especially when dealing with things like time or other common dimensions across many metrics. Where you wouldn't want to have to reapply the filter for every tab. So to add filters, you just go over here. We're going to start off with a time filter. We'll use our most flexible one, the filter that has all the different options. Our other filter, date filters, are more specific. They could be like on quarter or just a month and so forth. And so we need to connect our filter to the columns that it's going to filter, like so. We don't want birth date. We want it to be created at. And let me move myself out of the way there. Out of body experience. All right. And so that's our date filter. Then we're going to do one also for, let's see, how about some location ones? So country and state, and then maybe our customer source. So we can use that cross filter I mentioned. So, okay, let's do a location one, and we'll say we want it to be an is. We'll change the label to country, and then we'll connect it. So this one would be, oops, move myself out of the way. Or am I doing this wrong? Do we want this to be, let's see, I guess we could do state and city because we don't have country information. State. 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 Great. There's our states. I just remembered too, it doesn't always make sense, in my opinion anyway, to have date filters be wired up to trend charts, depending on how you've filtered them. But we might not want to have that be connected to these month-over-month ones. Then they start to not make sense, right? It depends on how you've set them up, of course. All right, and then let's go ahead and add another one for location, and that will be a city. And just while I'm in here, I want to show you something kind of neat, which is that you can set up your filters to have hierarchical relationships. So, in this case, there is a natural hierarchy between cities and states. Of course, cities are in states. And what we can do is make the city filter a little bit smarter and be aware of if the user has picked a state to filter on. We wouldn't want to show cities that aren't part of the selected state or states, right? So we do that by going over here to the linked filters tab when we've selected the child filter. And we basically say, I want this filter, the child one, to be filtered itself by this other one. So I'm going to turn this on. And then if you want to, you can click in here to see exactly what's going on. Which filter, which column is being used to filter the other one. So that is how we set that up. And then I can just show you how that works in practice. So this has many options in it. And if I type like SAN something, you're going to see many different options that contain the letters SAN. But then if I select the state of beautiful, wonderful California, my home state, then if I type SAN, you're going to see far fewer options inside of it because it knows that I've selected the state of California. So that is linked filters. Let's take a look at cross-filtering. So to do that, we are going to have to add our source filter. So this will be a categorical one. And we're going to say customer source, like so. And we'll wire it up to the source column. This means, we're sort of like the acquisition source, right? Like, did we get them from an ad? Did we get them from social media or something? Where did they come from? So once we've wired that up to some of our questions, and just for the record, we can also go over and hook this up to any other question that has that sort of customer information in it. I'm just trying to remember which ones might. Well, whatever. If they did, then of course, I'm just trying to remind you that it doesn't matter if they're in the same tab. This filter can be wired up to those. But it looks like these are the only questions that I've created that happen to have that people.source column in them. In any case, now that this filter is wired up, while I'm still in edit mode, I can come over here to this chart. And actually, so to that point, I probably don't want to wire this chart up to that filter, because I'm actually going to make it so that this chart can update the filter when a user clicks on it. So these are bars representing how many users we've acquired from these different sources. And what I want to happen is whenever a user clicks on, say, Facebook, it'll update that source filter to be Facebook, filtering out the rest of the charts on this tab. So I click on that icon there. This is the ability to customize what happens when people click on the chart. So I can do a couple things. I can either keep with the default behavior, which is to open up the drill through or action menu. By the way, that's only really possible with GUI questions. If your question is SQL based, you're not going to get that free behavior or that behavior for free of just opening up this drill through menu. I'll show you what that looks like in a second. While you can still set up manual custom click behavior on SQL questions, you just won't have that automatic menu. One way around that, by the way, is to create models in SQL if you need to do complex joins or synthetic columns or whatever, and then do your SQLing in the query that generates that model, and then have your users query off of that model and create their saved questions and their aggregations off of it, because then you will get the natural automatic drill through menu that way. So anyway, back to what we're doing. We want to update a dashboard filter when a user clicks on this chart. And then we pick which filter we want to update. We want it to be the source one, of course. It's not presenting the date filter as an option, incidentally, because it has an awareness of the metadata, knowing that this chart doesn't have any date information that could fit into the square peg round hole and all that. So instead, I'm going to do what I planned, which is to update the customer source filter with the value of the source column from the saved question, right? So it's easier to see what this does in practice. Again, like I said, if I click on Facebook, it updates that filter to Facebook, and then this in turn filters out the charts that are connected to it. So I can clear that out and you see them all update. This is very handy and kind of friendly feeling. You notice that if I click on the bar again, it deselects it, which is a nice little interaction. And it just makes your charts feel, your dashboards just feel that much more bespoke. And it feels like a more intuitive way to sometimes do some of this filtering. So that's cross-filtering, and we also talked about linked filters. We've set up all of our filters. And one other thing I wanted to show you was, in case you've got a data warehouse where you connected data to Metabase that's just very slow or very large in terms of the total number of records you have, maybe you don't want the behavior to be such that we immediately refilter everything the moment that you select a filter value like we were just seeing here. That's the default behavior, is to immediately apply those filters. Works great in cases where you have that sort of, very interactive speed of your querying, or if you've got caching set up for questions or for your models. In case you don't, though, you can always go over here to the info panel for a dashboard and turn auto applying off. This will then cause the dashboard to show you a apply button over here that then will apply all of your changes only when you've clicked it. So that way your charts aren't going to be constantly reloading and requerying. So that's what that does. All right, so now that we've got our filters set up and we've got our tabs going, I think that it's time now to take a look at the second dashboard that we wanted to create, which is our customer detail one. So of course, this is a nice overview of all of our customers. But what if I wanted to, see more about them? Well, first things first, I'm going to actually add here something I've neglected to, which is our customer model. I think that I've got that over here, actually, the people model. So this is just going to be a raw list of all of my customers. This is all pretend data, of course. These aren't real people. And then what I want to have happen is I'd like it to be possible for my users of this dashboard to click on a particular user and then see more information about that one person. But I don't want to have to build a separate dashboard, of course, for every single user. That's not scalable, and that would be crazy to do. So instead, what I'm going to do is what I described. And to do that, I'll have to go over here then, and I'll create a second dashboard. Here's my first one. I'm also just going to drag this up here and pin it, so that way it's easier for me to find. You can pin things, by drag and drop like I just did, or you can always click into this menu and not for collections, but if I unpin this, you can see there's that pin this action right there. So let's make my second dashboard, customer details. And we'll put it in that same folder. And then the only question that we're going to add to this is this detail one. So this is a visualization type that you can set for either one or more records. If it's a single record, it's just going to display that one record, of course, and it's just displaying each of the attributes or fields of that record vertically with the values in the second column, like so. And then again, if there's more than one record in the query result, it's going to give you pagination, so you can flip through the different records. We are intending this to just be used, to view one customer at a time, though. And the way that we're going to do that, as I mentioned at the very beginning of this tour, is that we're going to have some parameterization and some custom click behavior. So now that we've added that one question, we're going to add in a text card here, and we are going to put this at the top. And it's going to just, we're going to use the syntax here to include a variable. It's the double curly braces. And we're going to say that this is name. It'll be the name of the customer. And let's turn off the background of this card so that it'll just be kind of nice and clear. And we can even use Markdown here to make it be more like a heading. And so that's nice and big. It'll be here at the top. And what we're going to do then is we're going to have a dashboard filter that'll pass its value into this heading, into this headings variable. And so what we could even do is combine this with plain text. So we could say like all about name. And then let's add in our two filters that we'll need. One of them is going to be an ID filter, and we'll map this to the customer ID. And then we'll add in a text filter and say is, and we'll call this just name. And this one, we are going to wire this up to our text card here, the variable that we exposed in that text card, right? And then we won't need to filter the detail. This will just be filtered by ID to make sure that, like, if there's two people with the same exact name, but they're different, humans, that we're going to be filtering on the correct one. We could probably also do something else a little bit more interesting rather than just showing a single record, like to show lifetime value for just that one customer. I'm just going to kind of wing this actually and see if I've got that LTV question, average customer LTV. This probably doesn't make much sense since this is an average. Really what we would want to do is find the sum of the lifetime value of this customer, like the total that customer has spent. YOLO, let's do it. So let's create a question, and it'll be based off of our people model, of course. And then what we want to do is get the sum. Actually, this is going to be off of revenue, isn't it? So orders, which should have, of course, sales information. We'll just do the sum of subtotal here. And this is just going to be our total revenue. I guess I did have our total revenue question, which I could also use for this, but whatever, I'm already here. So let's just do this. So this is going to be, we'll call this like customer LTV. And we'll put this in our customer collection. Like this. Cool. And then we'll go back over here to our customer detail dashboard. Oops, I clicked on the wrong one. And we're going to add in that question. And it's this customer LTV1. And then we're going to make this dynamic, of course, by filtering on it. Because otherwise this is the total revenue for everybody, and we just want it for this one customer. So we will filter it by user ID, like that. Great. This isn't the most elegant arrangement, and it bothers me, so I'm just going to fix that real quick. That's better. Maybe I could even go in here and change the formatting a little bit. I want this to be currency. All right. That passes my test, my bar. All right, and what we want to do is go over to our overview dashboard now, and we want to customize the click behavior of that table down here. And I think what I'd like to do is have it be so that when the user or the viewer clicks on the name, that's what's going to take them to the other dashboard. You can set up different click behavior for actually every single column in a table, and then pass values from more than one of the columns, one of the other columns. So the click behavior that I want to, the column I want to customize, of course, like I said, is the name, and I want it to go to a custom destination, which would be to a dashboard, and the dashboard I want it to go to is the customer details one. And then it can, it says I can pass values to this dashboard's filters. And these are the filters I can pass things to. So I want to pass something to the ID filter, which is the value of the ID column. And I also want to pass the user's name to that filter. And then I could customize the link text here if I wanted to. So like, instead of just saying, just displaying the name, I could change it so that it says like, show details for name. Right? And then here's a little bit of a helper text where it can tell me the exact values I can reference in this variable syntax. So that's a little bit more advanced, and I don't really feel the need personally right now. I think that the names themselves are sufficient as a link. And so let's take a look at somebody. How about we look at Tressa White? I'll click on her name. I assume it's a she. And there we go. We've passed over her ID, her ID number into that, and it's filtered down my customer detail. And then it's going to give me the specific LTV for this one user, which is very cool and dynamic. And then it's populating this heading here with the name that we've passed over. And then of course this dashboard can you can continue to make this interactive. Users can just modify which ID that it's referencing. And then if we wanted to get really fancy even, we could, do something like add in a text card that says, back to the other dashboard, and, have the, text be a hyperlink that goes back to our other dashboard, right? But I think that's probably enough for today. I'm sure that you have plenty to chew on. And I hope that this little overview has given you some ideas of the different tools that you can piece together to create really dynamic, interactive experiences for your users, to guide them through your data, and to let them explore on their own also. So thanks so much for watching, and thanks so much for using Metabase.